And welcome, everybody. Twitch Sports. We are live hanging out with you. My name is Seth Everett. You can subscribe to this channel. You can hang out with us. You can follow this channel. We've done a few shows this week, and we're going to do another fun one. And yeah, we'll have a somber start, but it'll be a really fun sports show. The NFL playoffs are coming. And we're going to talk to a couple of former NFL players right here on the show. Linebacker Brady Poppinga is coming up in about a half an hour. And Anthony Becht is coming up in about an hour from now. So we're going to do a lot of NFL coming up, and I'm going to look forward to that. I put together a slideshow for some stuff from my career. You just saw me with Bob Uecker, which I thought was kind of neat. Hall of Famer, legend. I have a couple legends in there, so we can play some games and see exactly what we'll see. And like I said, we'll take your comments and your questions. We are also partnering today with the kind folks, the wonderful folks, Twitch Sports. And those guys are going to be simulcasting us today. So that is really, really neat. So we want to say hello to all the folks on Twitch Sports. In just a second, I will open up the Twitch Sports chat room. You can say hello over there. I can honestly say I see the ones on my channel faster. So if you're choosing between which one, you can let us know, and which guy you're going to be. We can do just that. Want to thank Sean, Musical Theater Kid. That's a great screen name. Whose Number? Is that a Virginia fan? Levi have all followed in the last couple of days on the show. And like I said, we're starting to grow the following and grow the subscriptions, and that's been good as well. So we were having a lot of fun with that. There's the Philly Fanatic, just like that. And there I am 20. So that was 26 years ago. And some pictures are upside down. And no, I don't know why. And it bugs me because that was the late, great Darrell Hamilton. And I don't know why he's upside down. Because when I insert the image, he's not upside down. And that is very perplexing. So we'll have that going on as well. And like I said, you can ask questions. You can ask comments. And do so just that. Yesterday was ugly, and yesterday was weird. And I'm not going to start doing a whole political thing. And yeah, there's all kinds of political news. And, I thought about putting my Twitter feed up, but so much of the what's going on Twitter is this mess that's going on in Washington right now. And yeah, it's alarming. It's alarming on a number of levels. But from a sports perspective, I thought I had a unique story to tell. And I could tell that story just as much as everybody has an impression. When people think about being an American and being proud to be an American, those buildings are hallowed buildings. And to see them desecrated like that is very unnerving. But for me, it was really weird because that is the one building, the Capitol building, that I've been to in my sports career. Because I covered the steroid hearings in the 2000s. There were two of them, and I covered both of them. And, the one aspect of this that you have to recognize is, the steroid hearings were a big deal back then, and it was wild. Like, it was wild to see. I had to do so much. It was bonkers. It was bonkers. And I remember I had to go through metal detectors, and yeah, it was right after 9/11, so maybe security was different. And yeah, again, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of yesterday. Enough to say that it was scary as all get out. If anyone has questions about yesterday that they want to ask, Turd Slammer, that's a great screen name. That's a great screen name. Yes, scary times indeed, my friend. But I remember going there for the two hearings. The first one was with McGuire and Sammy Sosa and Rafael Palmeiro when he wagged his finger And I remember being there. I remember getting into it with one of the congressmen, Congressman Waxman, Henry Waxman. What a clown that guy was. And I remember I met John Lewis then. I met Elijah Cummings then, two greats that have since left us. And I think I met Joe Biden. Joe Biden was a senator. He wasn't on the oversight committee, but I think he was there. And I could have, I can't remember meeting him or just seeing him in passing. I don't think I met him. I think I would have remembered that. But I remember going into the chamber, and I got there really early, and we got to take pictures. Like where those people were taking pictures, we were welcomed to take pictures there. We were able to embrace the whole thing. The room itself is really small, and it looks massive on television. And I remember being there, and I was sitting in the gallery for the hearings. But before then, I got to go up, and I got to interview a couple of the congressmen. Like I said, Elijah Cummings, John Lewis was there, and Henry Waxman. And I just thought the way that the questions that were being asked of these players were not the brightest of questions. And that was the stance I was taking back then. I remember walking across that lawn area from the Capitol to go to a media shuttle. There was like a bus that was taking us to there's a strip in DC, like one stretch of road where it's like 4 hotels, and you can go to 4 hotels. So you just hitch a ride on that. You don't try to drive around there. And I remember doing that. I remember walking. I had such a kick out of this because when I started my career, when I was in college, my first semester, freshman year, I knew I wanted to do broadcasting. I didn't know I wanted to do sports broadcasting. And I originally thought I wanted to do political talk. And, in the 90s, political talk was very different. Very, very different. So, I had a different perspective. But what I didn't like about political talk was the paying of the dues. I'm a big believer in paying dues. I tell young people all the time, pay your dues, and I've paid my dues. I did minor league baseball and minor league hockey, and I've had crappy shifts. I've had great shifts. I've done board hopping. I've done producing. I've done all the jobs, and when I learned what political reporters did to come up the ranks, they all worked in local markets. And when you're working in local markets, even big local markets, you're covering car accidents and kidnappings and fires and shootings and just disgustingness. And I never wanted to be the person that you felt I needed to, how do I phrase it? That you were felt compelled to watch. That you watched or listened to something that I was a part of because you wanted to be there. That you were getting some semblance of entertainment from it. And that's why sports became such a thing. I wasn't obsessed with sport. I'm a major sports fan, but I wasn't obsessed. It wasn't my childhood dream to be a sports announcer. It was my childhood dream to be an announcer. And what I have the passion about is the announcing part, not necessarily the, how do I phrase it? I just have to be at all the games. I don't care. There was a great story. I know I'm going out. I know I'm going on a big tangent, but one of the things that I learned when I was a kid was Dan Rather. Like Dan Rather, he was a CBS news anchor for so long. He was on Jimmy Fallon last night. I haven't watched Jimmy Fallon in months, but I thought they did a great interview. Chewy Sauce says, I had to pay my dues, even babysat David Beckham's kid as an MLS intern. That's fantastic. Tell that story. That's awesome. I love that. That's wild. Turd Slammer says, I can't even imagine the scene. Every time I've been in the Capitol, the reverence of the environment takes my breath away for a moment. Footsteps echo in the rotunda. It's true. It's wild to be there. It really is wild. But Dan Rather, was a reporter coming up in the ranks in the 1960s, and he just happened to have the assignment of covering Dallas, November 1963, to see the president do a speech and a presentation, and he was going to have a motorcade that was going to go down this road, and he got shot in the assassination, and Dan Rather was on the scene. And Dan Rather seized the moment, but that became his legacy. And I don't want my legacy to be tragedy. I have such reverence for the broadcasters that had to be there yesterday and that were scared out of their mind, and they were still doing it. And when I think about sports, and when we talk about paying dues, I mean, I was the play-by-play voice of the Auburn. They were then the Astros in the New York Penn League in 1995. Ramon Castro was our catcher. Julio Lugo was our shortstop, and our manager was Manny Acta. And I followed those guys. I totally followed those guys, as it were. And then when I was working for MLB, late years later, and I got sent for the steroid hearings, the second steroid hearing was the Roger Clemens one. And there's a story. I'm not going to, I don't want to do a whole bit on Roger Clemens because then I'll just get aggravated. But I got into an argument, and I ended Roger Clemens' press conference after he got fingered in the Mitchell report, Senator Mitchell's drug report. And then when they had the hearing on that, and Roger Clemens was there, and the guy who gave Roger Clemens the steroids, Brian McNamee, and I didn't know Brian McNamee by name because we didn't have the iPhone. We had the internet, but we didn't have the iPhone. And I didn't Google Brian McNamee immediately. But when I found out who Brian McNamee was, and if you Google the Mitchell report, you'll see who Brian McNamee was. I had seen him every day. I had totally seen him every day. I didn't know who he was. He was just some guy in the clubhouse. I didn't know he was giving steroids to this guy and to Roger Clemens and all this stuff. And I remember going to the men's room in the Capitol building, and at the sink, I see across the way, I see Brian McNamee, and he recognizes me just as much as I recognize him. And and I said, and Brian McNamee goes, "Hey man, what's been going on?" And I go, "What's been going on? You're about to testify in front of Congress. What do you mean what's going on? You're going on." And it was wild. It was totally wild. And one of the highlights of my life, let alone my career. And this has no bearing on your political affiliation because I don't care. I don't care. And I don't have a problem with saying what your political affiliation is or not. I don't care. What took place was a bunch of Looney Tunes who watch this rhetoric coming from a madman that is perpetuated by the media. And there are some media outlets that literally should just shut up. They should just shut down. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I remember at the congressional hearing for the steroids, Roger Clemens and I didn't make eye contact. He was mad. His denial was so dumb because when he denied doing steroids and he said, lines 6, 7, 9, and 12 are not true. And all I said, well, so then give us your side of the story. Tell us what was true. Like if he's wrong, don't just say he's wrong. Tell me what's right. And he got mad. And that was a big fight. And I remember my last thing about the congressional stuff is I remember when we were done and we were going to that bus, I was walking across the lawn, and I think at this point, if we can, I thought it was the biggest thing in the world. The steroid hearings were crazy. I thought it was the biggest deal in the world, and some guy runs up, recognizes me, and runs up, and he comes up to me, and he says, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." And he goes, "How my Mets looking this year?" And that's all he wanted to know. That was all he wanted to know. And I was thinking, because fans care about a team first and a league second, and that's part of it. That is very much part of it. So here's the plan. We can take your comments and questions up until the top of the hour, and then we're going to talk. I'm told we're going to talk to Brady Poppinga. If we don't, our crack staff behind the scenes is gonna, have to scramble to find him. But we'll be planning that in just a little while, and also Anthony Becht later on the show as well. So we're looking forward to doing that as well. I'm torn on how our society can make the positive aspects of social media outweigh the risks associated with bad actors and ignorance. It's a great point, and if you'll let me, I can respond to that, because I happen to believe that social media is more good than bad, and I know that people don't think that right now. At least personally, I have had wonderful experiences with social media. Social media to me has been therapeutic at times, and it has opened up doors for me. I'll give you a quick synopsis. The biggest example of social media was in 2015. My best friend was killed, Daryl Hamilton. And Daryl was the best. I mean, he was the best. He was my broadcast partner, and he was the best. And he was killed in 2015 in a murder-suicide. And because he had played baseball, he was relatively known. But because he was such a great guy, he was really well known in baseball circles. So baseball people really knew who he was. And so many people with these massive Twitter followings were tweeting about Daryl. That's actually how I found out that he died. And what I remember is people remembered that he and I had done a show together. And strangers every day were coming up to me on Twitter, and they were like, "Hey man, I knew you guys were close," or "Hey, I used to listen to your radio show and you guys were hilarious," and da 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 da. And I remember all of that. And Twitter was like therapy. It was amazing. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Twitter is how I met and worked with Prince. I worked with Prince for a year, and I met him on Twitter because I was doing a webcast very similar to this show, and I did a show about Prince, and I needed a guest, and I found this guest. It turns out he knew him, and Prince started watching our show, and the next thing you know, he was producing our show, and all because of Twitter. I remember because I was associated with Prince for a year, a lot of my social media following knows me from Prince. And when Prince died in 2016, it was similar, but not the same thing because I wasn't impacted the same way. Does that make sense? I wasn't, Prince was a great experience, but Prince wasn't my friend like Daryl was, So I didn't have the same thing. And that's where I get... I get the positives from social media. Now, social media can be a cesspool, and it can be disgusting. And I'll give you a perfect example. I was hacked about 5 months ago, and someone got control of my Twitter feed, and they tweeted some right-wing conspiracy nonsense or left-wing, I don't know what the hell it was, but it was about Trump, and I didn't write it, and people assumed I did. And they assumed, and I have been the one, I've lost followers this summer or during this year, during 2020. I've lost a bunch of followers because I've tweeted stuff like wear a mask and stay safe. Literally, that's what I've written, and that's it. What's another example? Oh, and then when I tweeted, this was a nightmare. I went to an NFL game, and it was in one of those stadiums where they don't allow fans, so I got in with a media credential, and I tweeted that I thought that stadium could have 5 8 or 10,000 people safely. Like, very safely. I thought they could do it. And I got called a right-wing crazy pants. I was called names. It was bonkers.
To do it.
How much that was done. And it was wild. And so, the whole argument from all of this has been social media can be a positive. It can be a positive. But I don't necessarily know that it automatically has to be. In the Twitch sports chat room, why do you like sports? Why do I like sports? Because I love the passion that people bring to sports. I love the idea that one team, Alabama beats Ohio State or Ohio State beats Alabama, and there are people whose whole seasons are based on one game or one victory. And I love how fans hang on every play and every player. And that's why I like sports. And I think sports is great. I love sports. And I don't know if I maybe missold that in the beginning. It's not that I don't like sports. It's just I didn't think I was going to cover sports the way I did. My favorite sport, my favorite sport is hockey as a fan. The sport that I've been more associated with is baseball because I've covered baseball for 26 years. Let's see. If my favorite teams are simple. Well, there's one hockey team that I love, the New Jersey Devils. That's easy. As far as NFL teams, there are 4 NFL teams that I'm associated with, and they're all from different connections. I don't want to go in chronological order, but one of my first jobs out of college was I was the beat reporter for the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos won the Super Bowl 32. I was on the field, so I've always been connected to the Broncos. After I covered the Broncos, I did a post-game show for the Seattle Seahawks for 3 years, and I've been associated with the Seattle Seahawks. When I came back to New York, I covered both the New York Jets and the New York Giants. The weird part is I met my wife because of the Jets, and I do a charity event every year when there's not a pandemic, and I do a charity event with Eli Manning. And so I became a Giants fan because of Eli Manning. And I root for those 4 teams because I have connections and I still have people that are affiliated with that team that are friends with me and friends with, just that I'm still associated with. And, I celebrate them. And, yeah, if I have to pick a team that I want to win, of course it's Seattle because I love that city. And, that's my other home. One other thing I wanted to mention, if you see the logos, you see the images up there, that's me with Kevin Burkhardt. And I don't know what the blank spots are. Maybe they're bad images or something. I don't know about this thing. But you see the 2 podcasts. And I know Sports with Friends has been posted this week. Hall of Justice was submitted a couple of hours ago, so it should be up. I haven't checked because we've been doing this. But this week on Sports with Friends, those are 2 podcasts. You can get them wherever you get podcasts. Sports with Friends comes out on Wednesdays. Hall of Justice comes out on Thursdays. Sports with Friends, you like the fancy new logo? I mean, what a handsome devil that guy is. I mean, come on. That looks like me. I think that looks like me. But the Sports with Friends this week, we talked to Jane McManus, former ESPN commentator. Now she's with Deadspin, and she is also, what else does she do? She's also with Marist College, and she has a really smart head when it comes to sports in the pandemic, and we kind of start the year talking about how are we pulling off 2021. What about the NFL? And I know the Cleveland Browns are, and one of the things we're going to talk about with Brady Poppinga in just a couple of moments, I know people have been talking about the Cleveland Browns and how they might be able to practice today. They have a playoff game on Saturday, and I'm sorry, but my argument has been I think that game should be postponed. I also think the game between Ohio State and Alabama should be postponed because what's the rush to play these games? Do we all have someplace to be? Are we, what do the kids have school? What's the problem with these? You think in Ohio State and Alabama they can't? And I don't know. They say that if they're going to postpone it, they're going to postpone it a week, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I just think whenever there's a doubt, whenever it's COVID related, I postpone. Because I think you compromise your competition when one team practices for the week and the other team can't. And I know there are injuries, and I know that you could argue that COVID is like an injury. I can see that argument. But I think when it comes to COVID and all the protocols that go with it, I think that you can, how do I phrase this? I think you can do it and still play 2 days later, 3 days later. Like if the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers played Tuesday and more players could play, isn't that better? If it's a better game and not a compromised game, isn't that better? And there were times when the Steelers had games that were canceled or moved. In the beginning of the season, they were postponing all those moves. And I don't know why. I don't understand why that seems to have been dissipated. The other argument has been, if they isolate it per position, you're still fine. I don't know. I don't like all the reasonings and all the suggestions. It seems odd to me. So anyway, Jane McManus was on Sports with Friends. Hall of Justice this week. You saw the image up there. Before, there's a new Batman animated feature film. Comes out Tuesday, the 12th? The 12th of Tuesday? I think so. The 12th. And we spoke to 4 members of the cast of Batman Soul of the Dragon. And I have a link. I can put a link in the chat room for Batman Soul of the Dragon. And you can sit there and you can see all the stuff that's been going on. It's been really, really cool. It's a movie set. It's a movie set in the 1970s. There's the artwork for it, Batman: Soul of the Dragon, and it's really cool. It's very cool. Why did the NFL make a mockery of the Denver-New Orleans game earlier this year? Because I don't think they care. Unless it was a nationally televised game. Like, I think they were trying to make an example of Denver, and I think they were treating them unfairly. And I thought twice the Broncos got screwed. They got screwed in the beginning of the season when they lost their bye week. And in this situation, I'm not against punishing players who don't obey protocols. If you want to do that, I'm all for it. That does not bother me in 1 second. If you want to have punishments, if you want to fine guys, if you want to suspend guys, I'm totally fine with that. What I don't love is when you do that and then compromise your competition at the same time just to get a game in. And this time around that it's a playoff game, I think there's a different strategy there. And I don't like it. Personally, I don't love the way that's being done. I applaud the NFL for getting all their games in, but when they had bye weeks, they had different rules. They had different COVID rules when they had different bye weeks, and they changed their strategy based on that. And I think that's wrong. And I think for them to be able to do all this. I get the sense that it's not about the safety of the players or the coaches. It's about how it shoehorns into their plans. And that's been this theme for the NFL all along. And I can't believe that next week hockey starts. I think that's wild. I think that's absolutely crazy. And how they're doing it financially, that's one of the things I think we're going to do on Sports with Friends next week, is we're going to answer the question is, how are they doing this financially when they don't make the same money on television that the other sports do? And how are they doing that? Like, to me, that's a strange thing. That's an odd one. And I think the NHL is in a weird spot. Will we do a hockey season preview? Maybe. We'll see if the guy wants to do the podcast live on Twitch. I offer that for all the podcast guests. And I offer that all the time. But sometimes they like to record like super early in the morning and super late at night, and just weird times that we record the podcast. It's not necessarily a 9-to-5 job, if you know what I mean. So in just a couple of moments, we're going to talk to Brady Poppinga. And when we do, we'll talk about both the college football national championship game as well as the other aspects of the NFL playoffs and everything that's going on with the NFL and how fun that can be and everything that's going on with regard to that. And that's going to be a lot of fun indeed. So we will do just that. And I'm looking to see, and we don't have, and so we're definitely going to be going on with all of this. Don't forget, in addition, the NBA is going on, and the NBA, started with these empty arenas, and they seem to be doing okay. They had their COVID hiccup, but the NBA seems to be moving along, and players are getting rested. Russell Westbrook's missed a couple of games already for no reason. Kevin Durant was in a COVID protocol, so he had to miss a couple of games, and that remains to be seen. I mean, that's definitely something that needs to be taken care of, because the one aspect of dealing with the NBA season, they've tweaked their schedule so that when they do their road trips, sometimes they play 2 games, and I think that's better. I definitely think that's better. And in the NHL, what they've done is they basically created 4 leagues, and they've created these 4 divisions, and they haven't done anything other than they have you're just playing those teams in your division. You're not playing anybody else. And so in the Northeast, in the East Division, I know my Devils play the Rangers, the Islanders, the Flyers, the Capitals, the Penguins, I think Buffalo, and Boston. And that's it. And nobody else. And that's great. If I never have to see the Tampa Bay Lightning, that's fine. If I don't see the San Jose Sharks, that's fine. I don't care. And I like playing those teams because I hate those teams. That's Jamie Moyer, by the way, that picture. And that should ever do that. So, we can definitely check as well. By the way, you can subscribe to this channel. If you are watching on Twitch Sports, you can follow this channel, subscribe to this channel, and ask questions in this channel. Like I said, we see the Twitch Sports. We can't always respond as fast as that happens. Chat is having hiccups. Interesting. Well, maybe we should give it some water. I can give it some water. So we can do just that. You're allowed to drink on Twitch, right? I can put anything in this. We can definitely put anything we want in this. We can do just that. And we appreciate all the folks that are subscribing, are following this channel. We've gotten a bunch of new follows in the last couple of days, and we can definitely do that. So Brady Poppinga is going to join us in just a couple of moments. Do I need to do anything? Does he have the link? Caleb, do you know anything? Did he get everything? Because Yeah. I can't I can't forward it to him again, or I could. I can do that. I can check that out. So he said he did. He said he got the link. So we're hoping to join him in just a couple of seconds. In the meantime, you can also hit me up on the social media at Seth_Everett. You see my Twitter handle is above the screen. I do Instagram. I'm learning Instagram. I don't know. I kind of like Instagram. It's better than it's better. I'm still more of a Twitter guy, and we put these shows on YouTube as well, so we can do that as well, and we will talk to them. So we're hoping to hear from Brady Poppinga in just a couple of moments. One thing from a weird note, the player, the MLB has offered a buyout plan to nearly all of its media division. And it's wild that all these people have taken it. And I know this is a little bit inside the curtain, but I don't understand. Major League Baseball is trying to shorten its workforce, and I think they're getting ready for a labor stoppage. I really do. I think Major League Baseball has no intention of playing a full season this year, and I think that they are ultimately going to find out that they are going to have to have some kind of a work stoppage to get their house in order, because they are currently a mess. And that's one of the weird things. All right, Brady Poppinga is on the case. He's coming soon. So that's weird. But, yeah, and I just thought from a baseball standpoint, there have been so many people. Richard Justice, longtime baseball writer, he took the buyout offer. And everybody's talking about this buyout offer, and they're making it for all these different people. And I'm sorry, but why is Major League Baseball trying to get rid of all this talent? It's very, very odd. It's just very disappointing as well. As far as Brady Poppinga, he is, of course, a former NFL player. He won the Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers in 2006. Also played for the St. Louis Rams and the Dallas Cowboys. And he also played at BYU. So he knows, obviously, college and pro football. As far as the national championship game is concerned, tell me if you disagree. I don't have a vibe for it. I really don't have a feel for it at all. My attitude has been, I'm not a fan of either team, to be honest. I don't know. I don't like that Ohio State has this chip on their shoulder, like they think that everybody's trying to be against them because they didn't play a lot of games. And frankly, they didn't. Bruta 1X or whatever. I don't know your screen name, but he says, I worry about people that work on public entertainment and sports related. How are they supposed to make money if there would be tightened COVID restrictions? I am not anti-sports happening. I just want sports to happen smart. And when it comes to outdoor stadiums, I think you can have some fans in it. I don't like the idea like when Dallas is having 35,000 fans in it, but I think you could have 10,000 fans there. I think it's awful. It's why I want everybody to get the vaccine. It's why I'm done with COVID. I hate it, but you have to do it safely, and there's a way to do it and a way not to do it, and I think that's the biggest difference. My argument has always been, if you can do it safely, do it. What I don't understand, I have not said, if you notice, I have not said don't play hockey. I'm saying play hockey. How are you playing hockey? You're paying your players. I know you're paying your players. And what money are you making? And every team doesn't have these sweetheart television deals. You know, it's kind of like baseball. When baseball was considering the season without fans, they had about 8 owners that said, no, I don't want to. And they didn't want to. And they wanted to make sure that they were they made their voices heard. There were a bunch of teams that said, no, if we can't have fans, that we don't want to come out and do it. And I remember that. And I was against this baseball season. I thought it was hodgepodge, to say the best, and I didn't like it. And I thought that for baseball, if they're going to do it and then complain about how broke they are, no one's going to feel bad for you. And, that's the situation. Now, the NHL has not said we're not playing. And I haven't suggested that I don't think the NHLs can have a great season. What I don't understand is how are they doing this financially? And how are they making the money? And I want to know, and I want to ask. And that's part of what I'm hopeful that we can do. And that's the best way to describe it. And I would love to think about it in terms of those stipulations. In the NFL, I was not against the NFL playing. I was against the NFL playing when teams weren't practicing and they weren't able to practice. That's what I was against. The Penguins now, Bullet Frenzy says the Penguins now have a helmet sponsorship. Yucky, disgusting corporate logo on their helmet. Yes, but I'd rather them put that and play the games than cancel the games and say, well, because we can't have fans, we can't play the game. The Devils have a Prudential logo on their thing, and you won't notice it. I don't think you'll notice it. I don't think it's such a bad thing, and I'm all for getting them whatever money they can make. All right, Super Bowl champion Brady Poppinga is here, and he is kind enough to join us here on the show from his car, and I just hope that he's not driving, because if he crashes and it's on me, I will have to take this personally. Brady, welcome to the show. How are you, man? Oh, he's muted. You're muted. Hold on. Unmute.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Go. Now we hear you. How are you, buddy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. So don't worry about it. I'm not driving while I'm on Zoom. Okay, we're doing everything safety first here.
Okay, we're good. So then I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about, like, you opening your sunroof and we could see the clouds moving by and you go, no, we're not driving, and I'm just seeing you plow along. We were just talking about how the NFL has been able to pull off this season. And we were looking, the one thing that I'm looking at is there's been a change in the way the NFL has kind of said, it's sorry you have COVID issues, but if you're not practicing for a week, too bad, you're playing on Sunday. And in the regular season, I thought that was weird, but in the playoffs, I think it's even weirder. The Cleveland Browns are decimated by COVID, and they can't play on Sunday. Would you postpone that game if it was up to you?
Absolutely. I mean, there's enough of a cushion in the end of the season here with the off season to where you can change games, you can kind of manipulate everything. But I get it, where at the same time, it's a domino effect. If you're going to change one game, then it's going to change the next round, and then the next round, and it changes the Super Bowl, and it changes every other team in the tournament. So you got to go with the same mentality, and this is the reason why. The reason why is because they're already used to going with this same mentality of, hey, not only are we prepping to play an opponent, but we got to look at COVID as another opponent. So we got to make sure we're following our protocols. We got to make sure that we're staying safe so that every player that's going to make an impact in the game and coach is eligible to play. And so to me, it's just another kind of – it's like another element of strategy that you have to be able to manage. And there's no asterisks. There's no excuses. If you can't get it, if your coach has COVID, you know what? You got to figure out a way to go around that. If you're talking about the Browns, maybe some of their main players, you got to find a way to still succeed. I mean, nobody's going to be out there giving out any pity parties. Nobody's going to give you a pass. And I feel like it's added a little bit more entertainment value. I don't know if you watched the Denver Bronco versus New Orleans Saints game when the whole Denver Bronco quarterbacking crew was out. It was kind of fascinating. It was an offense that you would have otherwise never talked about the Broncos, even though it was extremely terrible. But it was an offense that nobody else would have ever even tried in the history of the NFL because of, the perception of why would you go outside of your, the realm of your comfort. And so to me, I like it. And I do believe that you could, do some moving around, but not so much to where it affects other games. And that's ultimately what this is about. It's entertainment, and it's creating that competitive competitive environment to where, you know what, you got to be able to handle COVID too on top of your other strategic dynamics.
I love that you brought up the Broncos because we did a whole Twitch show about it, and I did a podcast about it, and I love your perspective on it. The way I saw it was, if you want to punish them, suspend them. You can fine them, thousands of dollars. I'm not telling them that they're not culpable for not following the protocols, but what would have hurt the NFL if they had played that game on a Tuesday night and two of those quarterbacks would have been medically cleared? And so from my thought was, I'm all for making people have to be accountable. I'm not taking away the accountability. What I'm trying to get it to is, don't compromise your competition. And I'm looking at it from the same perspective as you, saying I want to see the entertainment, but I don't want to see teams that are shorthanded because of a crazy pandemic, as opposed to, if you're going to beat them fair and square.
Absolutely. We got to remember the Denver Broncos, the lock, he didn't follow the protocols, which was you have your mask on. All he had to do was keep his mask on during the meeting, and I believe they would have at least cleared him to play. Or as an organization, you don't even have a meeting where everybody's in the same room. Zoom works perfectly fine. The only time they'd really see each other is on the field, and quarterbacks can do that. It's not like they have to be I think we're learning that just even outside of football. Not everybody has to be always in the same meeting room or in the same workspace to be productive, and especially the case in the NFL. So to me, it was more of a function of the NFL is basically saying, look, you guys didn't do everything necessary and possible to play, so we're not going to give you a pass here to move the game. You're going to have to find a way to make this happen. And also, it's a message sent to other teams that, look, if you're not following your protocols and you don't got players eligible because of that, you're going to be shorthanded. We're not going to, give it any mercy here. We're going to make sure you play and play. Yeah. So I felt that was more of their decision-making had to do with the negligence end of it for the Broncos. Whereas I do believe if on the Broncos side, they were doing everything necessary, but still had key guys out because of COVID, that they probably would have moved the game. So it was more of a message being sent from the NFL that if you don't follow the protocols, there's no mercy, man. You're going to have to play on the time that's slotted in that schedule.
Can we do college for a second? Because there's two questions about Ohio State, Alabama. Number one, do you think Ohio State is posturing to try to get that game delayed because Justin Fields is banged up? Do you think that's real, or is that media driven? Is that media hogwash?
Of course it's real. I mean, the reality is in college football, it's kind of a funky world. And this is why, because the NCAA is constantly talking about the integrity of non-professional sports, of being an amateur. We want to create this amateur environment. Right. And they want to make it seem like, yeah, everybody here's here because the coaches are here because they want to educate their kids. The players are here because they love the game. That's the kind of perception that they're driving. This is the reality, ladies and gentlemen. It's as big of a business as pro football. It's as cutthroat of a business as pro football.
Because they don't pay the players.
Well, that's next year's going to get better because players are going to be able to now profit off their likeness. But my point is that it's also extremely dirty, okay? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I have very good sources, okay? And this comes from coaches whose players are getting recruited, and they compile a list of these guys are the six-figure guys. Do you know what I mean by that? These guys are not. Well, what that means is that if you're a school out there like Alabama, like Ohio State, and you're getting the best talent, Clemson is there, Notre Dame is there, unless you got a kid that doesn't care about earning six figures, between quotation, coming out of high school, he's probably not going to your team. So what I'm saying is if they're going to go that far to pay guys to get them to come to your school, they're going to go that far to do anything they can to make sure the team's healthy and that they can win, between quotations, this quasi-national championships, which it's not. It's not a real national championship. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time the NCAA has crowned a football national champion?
Never.
Thank you. You know what you're talking about.
Never.
They've never done it. So the bottom line is, it's corrupt. It's corrupt.
Oh, it's
it is something that
corrupt. Oh my God.
Yeah, coaches or Nick Saban, everything thinks he's a big angel. He's not. You know what? He knows that his players, those top players are recruiting, are getting paid, and he's making sure they get paid, by the way, which is an absolute violation of the recruiting rules. But at the end of the day, nobody looks at it that way. They don't want to uncover that because it kind of ruins that perception that the NCAA is saying that college football is the purest form of football competition that exists. And so back to your question, yes, they're absolutely – and both the teams would do it too. If they were in the position to where they had guys hurt or it would benefit them in any way to accelerate the game, move the game, do whatever it is, they're going to find a way to make their team have the greatest advantage so they can win this CFP national champion, which doesn't mean anything, but it really means something to them because it helps recruit is really all it does. And it helps with their incentives contractually so they make more money.
Well, let me piggyback that then, because my second question has to do with exactly what you're saying. And I mean, corrupt, that's like telling me water's wet. I mean, yes, college football is corrupt. Here's my argument for this social media rhetoric that says Ohio State shouldn't have been in this group of 4 because they didn't play enough games. And I can see both sides to that. I can totally see both sides to that. We saw the whole way it played out, and I understand both arguments. Ohio State is good enough to be in there, but they also don't have more than 6 wins because they didn't play enough games.
No.
I understand all that. Do you think that chip on their shoulder is a motivating factor? Like, take me through the Ohio State mentality. Like, it just feels from a distance that they have a big FU mentality, and that's all they care about, and that they just want to show everybody that they belong. And it feels dirty to me.
Well, because it is dirty. When you have a team like Ohio State that's only played 6 games, and then you're going against a team like Clemson who played 12 games, Ohio State is going to have a drastic advantage because their team is fresher, legs are fresher, guys aren't as beat up, you're not mentally as grinded down from the or a college season, so it's not even comparable. You know what I mean? It's not even something where you're saying, oh, this is like a level playing field. We're going to see who's the best. No, you can't see who's the best because there are 2 different stages of the season. One team's fresh, one team's not. And so to me, Ohio State, I don't feel like they have a chip on their shoulder. I feel like they're extremely talented and they're just going out and playing ball and they're fresh, they're feeling good. And I almost can't. I get the vibe more for them that they can't believe they're in the championship game, only having gone through 6 games. It's like, to me, what feels dirty, and even if I was a player, I'd feel this way. It's almost like you haven't earned your right to even be playing for a championship because you haven't gone through the rite of passage, which is playing a full season, dealing with the grind, dealing with the fatigue, dealing with key injuries. You haven't done that, playing through those injuries. That's what a championship is. When we won a championship with the Green Bay Packers in 2010, we had so many dudes on IR. We had so many challenges. And then when you top that season off with the championship, oh, my goodness, it's legit. You're like, yeah, we earned this. I don't know if Ohio State's going to feel like after this that they really earned it if they're being honest with themselves.
It's great stuff. We're talking to Brady.
If they win, if they win,
we don't know.
I'm not saying they're going to win.
Alabama's a juggernaut,
but I don't even know if they feel like they deserve to even just be in position. I almost feel like they're just kind of laughing and just going out and playing. But yeah, there's no way they've gone through the rite of passage to win any kind of championship, let alone what they would consider the national championship of college football.
Well, in Alabama, to their credit, they could beat the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets, so they're legit.
No, they couldn't. No, they couldn't. They would get their butts kicked left and right. Those little boys against those professionals. Are you?
Speaking of,
to ever say that a college football team could even beat a pro team?
You don't think Alabama could hold its own? You don't think Alabama could hold its own?
Oh, they would.
The Jets.
Oh, the Jets, all they would do is they would run circles around Alabama. It would be a physical domination, a mental domination. Because you got to remember, I mean, physically, guys are similar, college to pros. When you get to the NFL, everybody's physically gifted, everybody's fast and big and strong. The difference comes down to the mentality, knowing exactly, like, it's almost like, for example, when I first showed up at the NFL, the very first time I started playing against NFL talent, the thing that struck me was it was like watching an artist that had no wasted strokes. There's no wasted steps. There's no deficiencies. I mean, there is, but relative to college football, where it's kind of like a bunch of flailing puppy dogs, it was way different. And just that difference alone, which comes, it's the more mental part, the repetition part, building habits, becoming a master of your craft. It wouldn't even be close. For example, Jones wouldn't even, the quarterback for Alabama would get destroyed.
Really?
By the pass rushers.
Okay.
Oh, the pass rushers would just manhandle and technically destroy the offensive line of Alabama to the point to where they'd probably have to go to their backup quarterback to the point where he couldn't get the ball off. Cornerbacks would jam at the line of scrimmage those receivers to where they would have no timing relationship with your quarterback, wouldn't even be able to get in the route progressions.
Smith, really?
And by the time they did, they would be so tired and fatigued that they wouldn't be as effective as they are against college football talent. And then let's say there is a clean pocket, and let's say the quarterback is able to throw the ball. Nobody's going to be open. If you watch most passes in the NFL, a quarterback has to throw a guy open, or a quarterback has to throw to avoided space in the defense, hoping, and this is before the receiver even arrives there, hoping the receiver reads on the run the same exact void in the defense and makes a cut to that void where the ball has already been thrown, ready to catch the ball. Wow. So if we go down that, that's a funny topic. I always laugh at that because it would never happen. I would love to see it, but those boys, those little college boys would get humbled immediately. And they'd be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I mean, that's why you look at all those first rounders. Look at how many first rounders actually go on and start their first year in the NFL and have a great success. Very, very little.
Very few.
And it's just because it's a whole new level, man. So anyway,
this weekend, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play Washington, and on paper it looks like a mismatch. What's your thought on Tampa Bay going into Washington, and do you think Tampa is as good as people are hoping they are, or at least the television executives are hoping they are?
Well, I mean, they're talented, and they got Tom Brady, and their defense is phenomenal. I'm going to tell you this. If Alex Smith plays with the same limitations he had this last week, it's going to be one of those 45-7 victories for the Bucs, and Tom Brady's going to be on the sideline by the end of the third quarter. And that's because that defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're built from the middle out. You know, they got Sue in the middle, they got Shaq Barrett on the edge, and they got some very good cover, man-to-man cover guys in space, and they got that linebacker out of LSU. What's his name? Man, I don't remember his name, but he's phenomenal. I think he's number 40-something. But at the end of the day, you got a defense that will exploit a quarterback who struggles moving. And Alex struggles moving because of his right calf. And, bless his heart, he's achieved more this year.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's achieved more this year than he has in the last few years coming back from that injury than he has his whole career up until this point. That's how big of an accomplishment he's made of coming back and playing functional football. But with those limitations, he will be absolutely neutralized. Then the next option is you got to run the ball. The best run defense in the NFL is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a good matchup for the Redskins. Unless something crazy, talk about COVID, all of a sudden we hear that Tom Brady can't play, half their defense and their wide receiving core can't play. That one's pretty much a gimme for the Bucs. They're going to dominate that game.
How can people find you online? And you're involved in a lot of charitable organizations. And how can people who are watching this, what can we put in the chat room? What can we show the viewers? Because we got a lot of them. What can we show them so they can find out and reach out to you?
Yeah, just tell them to come follow me on Brady Poppinga on Twitter. I'm a big Twitter guy. I enjoy it. Enjoy the conversations. Enjoy the banter. So that would be the place.
Right on. That's awesome. Brady, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. And I promise, one of the things that we love to do is we love to just, have the familiarity. And next time I'd like you to come on the show while you actually are driving, and let's see how the interview changes.
Well, luckily I got a Tesla and I just go into auto drive and we would pretty much be able to survive that. So awesome. I've done that before, by the way. It would have been the first time that I went to auto drive and got on FaceTime or chat and still was safe. But I'm not suggesting that people do that.
No.
Don't do that at home. Leave it up to us experts.
Well, it feels good to have a real sports conversation, and I really thank you for coming on, man.
My pleasure, bud. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. With Brady Poppinga, ladies and gentlemen, and we will have him here on the show as well. That was great. That was fantastic, and he did a great job. And we're going to continue the football talk. Anthony Becht is going to join us in just a couple of moments as we continue here, and it's interesting to hear his point of view. Jim says Smith can't move. That's a problem. Washington doesn't have any running backs that can run the ball. They're all pass catchers. Yeah, I think it's a mismatch too. Washington stinks. I mean, they've had a great season, and Ron Rivera is a great story, and Alex Smith is a great story, and everything Brady just said about Washington is true. And I think it would be great to see them upset. The NFL has never had the Super Bowl be in a home stadium, and it's in Tampa this year, and that would be one of the stranger things we can do. So I am interested to see exactly how that could happen. The one thing that you have to wonder, when it comes to the NFL, is just what kind of playoffs we're going to see. Now let's welcome in former tight end. I knew him from his days with the New York Jets, and he is the man, the myth, the legend, the man. Anthony Becht is here on the show with us, and look how charming, and look at this guy. We are all set to have him on the show. All right, he's still muted, but as soon as he's unmuted, then we can have him on the show. Anthony, how are you?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now we can. What's going on, buddy? You're down in Florida. You're in the hotbed of everything. You're in Florida, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's what they say. I'm doing well. I'm down here in Tampa. Excited about this weekend. Obviously, living in Tampa, there's a lot of buzz with the Buccaneers and what they'll do, and a lot of the fans and the area is just hyped up about it. So we're all keeping our fingers crossed from a fan's perspective that they can make a little bit of a run. And of course, the Super Bowl is in the backyard as well. So I'm not quite sure what to expect, leading into that week of the Super Bowl. You know how crazy it gets in the cities. I haven't heard really anything going on in these cities. So, it's right? Kind of crappy pick of the draw, I'd say, for this season, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, the one thing I can say about Tampa is it's so hard not to get in trouble in Tampa. I mean, I've been to Tampa in March. I went to Tampa probably for 12 straight marches for spring training, and it is debauchery center, and I can just imagine what a Super Bowl down there would normally be like. I mean, it is impossible not to find shenanigans anywhere you turn. It's crazy there. And I remember one time somebody said to me, they said, "Hey, you want to drive to Orlando to go to a Magic game?" And I go, "Are you out of your mind? Do you see what's around you? Why would we leave here? There's nothing. What basketball game is going to do anything for us?" When the Bucks got Brady, and then you had everything with COVID, and everything was a compromise. And in Florida, it's not the way the rest of the country is, so it's been definitely different rules. Has it been what you thought it would be, like having this icon here and somebody that the Bucks can really get behind?
Yeah, everybody's has gotten behind it. I think everybody's kind of surreal to them. I think more from an aspect of fans not being at the game's probably the biggest deal that you don't have, because they don't get to embrace the season that the Bucks had. it was a little surreal for me. Someone that covers the team and watches them, and of course played against Brady, came out of the same draft as Tom Brady. It's amazing what he's done. I think everything up to this point, from what I thought would happen prior to the season when he was signed, is about in line. I expected no less than 11 wins. They got 11 wins. And of course, getting to the playoffs for the first time since my third year when I played here, the three of the 3 years in 2007, when we lost to the Giants in the first round. That's the last time they've been there. So this city has waited a long time. This fan base has waited a long time. And listen, I think they finished the season strong. And outside of a few healthy components and the COVID element with a player or two, I think this team is primed to make a run. Now it's tricky because it's on the road, right? That's a tough deal. At least the first game, potentially the second game, maybe some action happens at the sixth and seventh spot. But they'll probably be on the road all the way through.
Right. The only time they'd get a home game would be the Super Bowl, and that would be ironic because it's technically not a home game. But
right.
But it's 2020. Of course, that would happen this particular year. Let me ask you this: can we tell the story about how you found out 90 minutes before kickoff that you were broadcasting a game for Westwood One? This is one of the greatest stories of the NFL season, let alone this is such a COVID thing. I worked the Olympics for Westwood One, and Howie Deneroff's a good friend of mine. And I remember talking to him before it happened, and we were talking about all the scenarios, and he said, how the feeling you get when you prepare for a blizzard? Well, every week is a blizzard. Every week there's always something. And 2 announcers went down for different reasons. And you live in Tampa, and the game was in Tampa. Tell the rest of the story. What kind of a phone call was that, and how fast did you have to prepare?
Well, look, there was no preparation, so that was one. So I got a call. The game kicked off at 8:15.
Well, who are they playing? Who are they playing?
They were playing the Rams.
The Rams. Okay.
Yeah, they were playing the Rams. They lost that game by 3, but so I got a call. Kickoff was 8:15. I got a call around 6:30 from Howie, and he's like, "Listen, at first it was like it wasn't going to happen." And then I had gotten COVID at the beginning of the month. So there had to be a certain window. He didn't know I had gotten it. So he had to check on that. So once I cleared that, he's like, okay, can you get to the stadium? So I said, yeah. He's like, listen, don't worry about getting dressed up or anything like that. Just kind of come casually and we'll make it work. So I said, fine. So, as I'm driving there, hitting the 7:00 hour, he's calling me, and I could feel the nervousness in his mouth as he spoke to me. He's teaching me kind of the ropes, and listen, I've done this before, but I get it. In that moment, it's the biggest show on radio for them, so I get it. They don't want to mess this up. They already feel like they lost because Pacelli couldn't make it. So I was trying to,
make it, and Kurt Warner couldn't make it originally.
Yeah, he had done the night before the Saturday night or Thursday night game, and instead of traveling him across the country, Pacelli was going to drive over from Jacksonville. Well, whatever happened with him, someone had gotten COVID he had dinner with, and so he couldn't come. So I'm heading over there. He's telling me the ropes. He's explaining to me, do this and that. And again, I was very open-eared listening. I said, you got it. I'll take care of it. Trust me, this and that. And so I pulled up about 7:30. And, get into the stadium. I went upstairs, got my credentials on my phone, got everything ready. And I walk into the room, and they're already on the air doing pregame. Yep. So I get on, the producer turns around. He's going like this, 3 minutes. It's like, guys, he's like, pregame. We're going to do a little head into the game. So you say no prep. Well, listen, I cover the NFL. I cover the Jets. I do cover the Bucks as well. So I have to watch their film. I've already seen all the teams already on film. And I just happened to watch a lot of the Rams that year too, because the Jets played the Rams as well. So, for me, I jumped in and honestly, it went great. I mean, I knew exactly what was going on. I had already known what to look for. And it just, instead of being very basic and just kind of stay out of the way, of the play-by-play. I was just, look, I gave the time when it was my turn. I took advantage of it, and I guess I got raving reviews from it. Howie was very happy. It led me to get another game with a little more notice. Actually, an extra day notice because the Ravens Steelers game got fired.
And he had to have 5 different broadcast crews for different reasons for every night that Ravens Steelers game got canceled. Because guys have other jobs, so they had a different play-by-play guy if the game was on Thursday, Saturday, or Monday, but Friday and Sunday and Tuesday, it was crazy.
So I covered Tuesday, Wednesday, so I was able to stay there. I stayed an extra night in Pittsburgh, called the game. It was great, and then I think we had a great conversation. There may be some things in the future. We'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, I'm done now. That I cover the Jets full-time game day. And their season's obviously been over for a while, but it's completed. And now I'm just, look, this is my brainstorm month, man. What's next on the horizon? I'm always thinking of other things, and that's kind of where I am now. But I can't wait. We still have playoffs, which is great as well. So
no, it's fantastic. There's no secret about that. You mentioned the Ravens Steelers game. We were just talking about this with Brady Poppinga earlier today. That game got changed 5 different times, but yet when the Denver Broncos are trying to play or the Cleveland Browns have a playoff game on Sunday, it's like, too bad, guys. It's whoever's last man standing. You guys are playing, and to me, it just seems like the NFL has changed their mentality when it comes to safety. And in the beginning of the season, they were like, "Look, we have wiggle room. We can move the Super Bowl if we have to." You said there's nothing planned in Tampa right now. It's not like a bunch of parties are going to get canceled and hotel reservations can't be made up. What's the idea that the NFL is just treating this whole thing very, very differently?
Well, I think it's ever changing, right? I mean, I think they're trying to do the best they can. They want to keep the schedule as is because they don't want to have the changes. Now, they had the instance with Baltimore. I mean, listen, I saw the laundry list, 38 different players with roster moves, COVID moves. I mean, that's unprecedented. And they're at least able to get that game in that week. And you're right. That extra week was available to push things and get things done. But, listen, the NFL is a big, I mean, it's huge, right? So everybody has the norms. Everybody wants to kind of stay within the framework. You got to give credit to really everybody, organizations, teams, NFL. It may not have been as easy or as crystal clear, and we can second guess a lot of things, but who wouldn't? I mean, it's just an unexpected time. Who knows? And then we're in the playoffs. I'm actually really nervous about just the point. Now, you talked about the Browns heading into this. The one thing I would say is, why in the heck can a coach have some type of access to his staff member or something from his home? I mean, why would he be punished for something he really can't control? That boggles my mind. If there's a competitive advantage there, please let me know, because he is the head coach. If anything, now there's an advantage for the other team because he's not there. So, I never really got that. I don't know why that's considered, off the wall, but I know we can do a Zoom right now, and, we can do some type of technology where we can link him into somebody. So at least he can have some type of back and forth within the game.
Supposedly they want to have him be on a Zoom, and they're going to simulcast it live on Twitch. We're going to put it on this Twitch channel and watch him coach the game. I think that would be a fantastic idea.
It would be tough. I can't even imagine. I mean, you're the head coach and the play caller. That's a big deal. It would bother me. Like, it would inside my body. You couldn't have that control. Not that you can control things, but you do. I mean, you call the plays.
But 2 days wouldn't make a difference. Like, if you played that game on Tuesday, who's not going to watch that game on Tuesday? Like, what? How does it hurt the NFL?
I mean, I don't know. I just, weekend is the weekend. I mean, listen, man, it's 3 games on Saturday and Sunday. Like, I'm not going to move from my couch. I mean, I'd imagine the majority of the people out there aren't going to do the same. And you have the national. I mean, look, you could be completely worn out. You got the national championship on Monday. I mean, you're talking about I'm going to have a big indentation in my couch by the end of the week, the next 3 days.
Yeah, it's literally, it's like sports overload. It's like what happened in September. We went from having nothing to having NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, all in the same nights. Like it was like it made sports updates easy. That was the best part about it. Sports update anchors were like, "Oh, this is fantastic. This is great," and just reading scores left and right. Do you get the sense from what you're seeing? You saw Buffalo. They're talking about letting some people in the building. Do you think they're going to start to loosen the strings on keeping people outside? In these stadiums. My thought process has been, and I say it about baseball and I say it about football, I'm all for outdoor stadiums having people in them. And again, not 50,000. I'm not talking about Dallas. I'm talking about normal, responsible crowds in stands. And, there was this thing in the NHL where there was a rumor, it didn't go anywhere, but this rumor in the NHL that the Boston Bruins asked if they could play some of their games at like Fenway Park or Foxborough so that they could put people in the stands, because indoor arenas and outdoor stadiums are very, very different things. Do you think the NFL is going to do something progressive to kind of open up for the playoffs, because the atmosphere is so different, even just a smattering of people?
Yeah, that's the one thing in general about the playoffs that I remember playing in 9 of those games is the crowd. That was a huge deal. I mean, I remember going to Oakland in the playoffs, and it was so loud and deafening. It was just hard to concentrate to the next level. And I've been in all the stadiums. I mean, listen, they're going to do the best they can, in particular the Super Bowl. I know that they were trying to allow, the first responders and some of those workers, maybe they can work something out, those that were vaccinated. I mean, listen, it is a little bit of an odd deal. I mean, you're right. It is the biggest. You're right. It is open air. You talk about responsible fans. I mean, look, I've been to a few games now as not as a player in the stadiums. And I don't know, man, those people, when they're there, they're having a good time, and they're not really like, worrying about everybody else's space and business. They're trying to have fun. So you got to do the best you can to contain it. If there's any state to have the Super Bowl in, it's got to be Florida, because they have the loosest of the rules. So it looks like they'll try to maximize it the best they can.
and they'll do it at any time. Do you have a feel for Ohio State and Alabama? Do you I was saying this before. I just think Ohio State has this chip on their shoulder because everybody thinks they shouldn't be there because they only played 6 games. And I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. In Alabama, I mean, hell, they were having COVID parties. They were thrilled to get people to get the virus. It just seems like it's 2 organizations that I'm not behind. I don't have a rooting interest in this game, and I have disdain for both organizations. I don't know. What's your feel on the national championship?
I mean, look, if Ohio State can do what they did against Clemson, which again, it's not a guarantee. I mean, they were really dialed in. I really think it's going to be a good game. I really truly believe it's going to go down to the wire. I think it's going to be something we remember. Definitely for someone like Justin Fields, who's already kind of shook the world here because for some reason people thought he was just a disaster after the last, the Indiana and Northwestern game, comes back and did what he did against Clemson. So, I never really lost faith in that kid. I know he can play, and, they got some talent now. I mean, that Olave kid is pretty impressive. That Sermon running back is, wow. Like, he's about a replica of Najee Harris as you can find. I mean, this is going to be a great game. I really believe it. There's definitely a little bit of an advantage from the skill position side for Alabama going against the secondary of Ohio State. But, look, Ohio State can dictate some things if they stay on point. And I really do believe it's going to be a close game.
Well, it should be a lot of fun. And, do you think that they're I like when they accused Ohio State of using COVID as a reason to postpone the game?
I can't imagine that.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm sure they're as excited as they are in playing the game. I would imagine every player, coach across the country can't wait till the day after that game so they can take a break and see family and friends. I mean, it's been a tough time. I mean, normally everybody's, oh, well, the kids are normally there anyway. They're not, but you do have breaks. I mean, there are the time for you to get your mentals back, and you didn't have that. So, congratulations to all of them that lasted this long. And listen, it's going to go off, and hopefully we get a great game following, six NFL wildcard games.
So for the Super Bowl, have they tagged you to be a backup something already?
Man, that would be awesome. I mean, listen, I'm sure they're going to probably bring in double time on that one. And
he told me they were bringing in double a backup person for every position in the broadcast on and off air to have, and they all have to be credentialed and cleared COVID-wise. I mean, it's madness how many people that involves for one radio broadcast. One radio broadcast. That's crazy.
It's a Super Bowl, right? I mean, you gotta. My dad always told me one thing. He always said, he's like, always have a backup to the backup to the backup plan. And I try to live like that. At least a backup to the backup. The third tier is like, man, it's not going to happen if you got to get to the third time. But look, that's just where we're at, man. It's the biggest show. It's the biggest game in America, in the world. I mean, everybody watches it and everybody wants to listen to it. And it's going to go off. It's just a matter of who will be.
Well, just from an outside observer who has been with you all season, because we've been talking since August, since you got all the good publicity, you have cleaned up your act. Your background looks so tight now. The microphone sounds so much better. You used to do this thing in the hallway. You would come on these shows, and now you've got a whole studio set up with your jersey hanging and everything. Looks really sharp, man.
I'm getting a lot of pressure from my wife to clean up the office so she can come back and start living her life properly. This frame behind me is normally like this really expensive framed mirror that normally is there. So the jerseys go on this wall over here. There's 6 of them all lined up. There's a big one missing. So if I showed you the full circle picture, you'd be like, what the heck's wrong with that office? But we do have to maneuver. The balls in the background, they all stay, the footballs and stuff like that. But that is not what stays behind me when the real-time life comes into play.
I'm telling you, you've gone big time. It's like it's a totally different setup. Your lighting's all right. Your microphone's perfect. I'm telling you.
I got some lights. I definitely I finally figured out the lighting situation. So, that's better.
Well, it's great to talk to you again. Again, continued success. And thanks so much for popping on this show. Really, really appreciate it.
You got it. Yep. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the weekend.
Anthony Becht right here on the Twitch show and Twitch Sports as we continue to have all these folks here on the show and get a chance to talk to you guys as well. Really enjoyed having both Brady Poppinga and Anthony Becht. And don't say we didn't cover football. I promised we'd cover football. And it's funny because I don't have a feel for the college game. I really don't. And I'm leaning toward Alabama. And you notice everybody's talking about Ohio State. I don't know. I really don't know. And but it doesn't mean that I'm jumping on board. I don't have a vibe for this game. I really don't. I think it's one of the weirder things going forward because I will arguably tell you that my attitude has been all along, you're not paying the players. And, that's always been my perspective. But now that you're at this point, hey, we want to see the whole thing through and just get to that point. It's weird. Everything's weird. And I know Jim was in the chat room. The one thing I saw the Syracuse game yesterday, and I thought that was really odd because they were supposed to play Florida State and Pittsburgh was supposed to play somebody else. And because of COVID, games got canceled and Syracuse hadn't played in 3 weeks. And now all of a sudden they're in this position where they find themselves playing, what are they playing? They're playing Pittsburgh. Thank you. I've drawn a blank. Pitt. And they hadn't played in a while, and everyone's rusty, and there's nobody in the stands, and it looks really odd, and the whole thing is weird. And ESPN is going to these announcers, and they're in their houses. And they're in their houses. And I don't know. It just looked, Bush League to me. I don't know. And then I was riveted by what was happening yesterday with everything going on with the government and everything. So the Syracuse game, I couldn't keep more than one eye on the Syracuse game. And it just seems like when Syracuse basketball is playing, stuff around the world is going on. You remember Syracuse was playing North Carolina in the ACC tournament last year, and they're playing their best game. And that's when Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID, and the NBA cancels their season, and now all the rumors are starting, and all these things are going on. And here Syracuse is playing this game, and you're like, I'm half watching, and I have become the half watcher of Syracuse basketball. It's just been strange. And today there was a link on Twitter. The Devils had their practice. And I was watching, and I felt like I was eavesdropping, and it was very cool. I don't know why eavesdropping suddenly became really, really fun, but it was cool to do. And my attitude has been, I love it. I love when they're doing this. I don't mind empty arenas, but I'm not counting their money. And that's been my whole thing about the NBA and the NHL is, how are they affording all this? They're playing these games with no fans, and it just seems very quiet and very weird. And I don't know. I don't make those kinds of decisions. I just don't. And but we'll see. I mean, you've got, like Anthony was saying, you got 6 NFL playoff games this weekend. That should be a whole lot of fun. And also on top of that. The reality of everything that goes on, you can look at all of these football games, and then by the time you get to Monday, it's like, oh my goodness, enough. And it should be a lot of fun. I want to give a couple of plugs before I want to give a shout out to Caleb, who helped us with the show, helped moderate this show, and that was really helpful. And he took care of some stuff for us as well. And that was really great. So thank you. Shout out to Caleb. Also, if you see my Twitter handle, hit me up on Twitter. That's the best way to find out when I'm doing things. The other thing you can do is follow, obviously, this this channel. We're doing shows all the time. I've got these guys from California that want to come on and do a show, and we're going to do something with them coming up in the next either tomorrow or the beginning of next week. We're putting all these things together, so we're doing all that. If you're watching on Twitch Sports, they have some other stuff coming up in just a couple of seconds. They have the Kyle King show, and my man Kyle King is going to be taking the airwaves coming up in about 3 minutes from now. And then fan-controlled football, they're coming up after that. Sports Talk Thursdays, and that's all here on Twitch Sports. So we'll look forward to hearing from them, and that should be a great moment there. If you go to my channel, you can see the links to all my stuff, including my podcasts, Sports with Friends and Hall of Justice, and you can see all of those things, and we put all those things there. All of those links are on there, and you can hang out with those as well. And then the other thing that we'll be doing, we have another show coming up. Like I said, if you follow this channel when we go live, we will have all of these shows coming up. So I'm looking forward to that. And we'll have special guests like we did today, and we'll have some friends on as well. And that's always the way we kind of doing that. Andrew writes and says, I was on a call for nearly all of Anthony's segment. My thought is because Indiana is not a TV draw, there was a decision to keep... Oh, they're having their own conversation. I don't even know. I didn't even know what they were talking about, and that's all well and good. So, yeah, we'll have that. And Jim says that if I bet on one team, then I'll have a rooting interest. And I thought about that, but I'm doing shows like this and I'm watching other shows, and if I was betting, I would bet for Alabama. I definitely think so. I definitely would have. If I have to bet on that game, which thankfully I don't have to bet, I would probably take Alabama. That's the way I'm leaning, I think. Not sure, I think. But we'll have to do that. Check out Sports with Friends, Jane McManus, and also Hall of Justice, where we interview the cast of the new animated Batman movie, Batman Soul of the Dragon. And that's you can find that wherever you find podcasts. And if you go down to the bottom of this channel, you can see the link to the Hall of Justice podcast, which should be out on iTunes by now and Spotify and wherever you get podcasts. It was submitted this morning, so it usually takes about 2 or 3 hours to get on there as well. So if you're getting ready for Twitch Sports, check out Kyle King. That should be a lot of fun for them. And obviously, if you're checking us out on this channel, we will see you very, very soon right here. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth_Everett. And thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in on both Twitch Sports and, of course, this channel. We'll see you next time.